What is up, my basic birches? Happy October. Today, we're getting spooky and making a Halloween countdown calendar. Let's get into it. Starting off with the cedar 1x6 on the miter saw, cutting out 3 pieces that are 27 inches long, then gluing them up into a panel. Once dry, I'm marking about 4 inches in from each corner and about 8.5 inches down from one end. Connect the lines to get that coffin shape. It doesn't have to be exact, as long as it looks like a coffin. While it's still squared, or I guess a rectangle, I'm marking lines to help lay out the numbers. They're not totally necessary, but it will make things a little easier later. To cut the top corners, I changed the angle on the miter saw and got it as close as I could. It doesn't need to be exact, but what is important is once you set that angle, do not change it, because we'll need it to cut the border pieces at the same angle so everything will line up nicely. For the border, I'm using some 1x2 and using a saddle square to mark the line so I know exactly where to cut. If you don't have a saddle square, I highly recommend getting one or two. I think they're super useful and I'll leave a link in the description. Now that the top half is done, we move to the bottom half, which is way too long for the miter saw. So I'm using some plywood as a makeshift sled on the table saw, trimming one edge to create kind of a zero clearance. That way I can just lay down the board and I know that's exactly where it's going to cut. To match that angle, I use a sliding T-bevel to transfer to the miter gauge, but you could also use a miter saw. Then just finish up the rest of the border. Moving to the laser, I cut out the countdown words and numbers as well as the ghost that will be used to count down the days. I don't have the best laser, but it is capable of cutting 1/8 inch plywood. Got everything painted, and now for the most time consuming part, gluing everything down. I use a cutout from the laser as a template to glue everything down piece by piece. If you have a Cricut, you could also cut out a stencil and paint it, or use permanent vinyl, but I really like the 3D look. After that, I glued and brad nailed the border all the way around. For the ledges that the ghost will sit on, I use strips that are 3/8 by 1/2 inch. Finally, I sealed it with a few coats of polyacrylic. And there it is. I painted the ghost with glow-in-the-dark paint, and with the lights off, I think it really comes to life. Hope you like it. Okay, bye birches. Remember, don't be basic.